Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Between the Seasons, the mini-series from Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work, the podcast that explores the messy, honest, and very real experiences of being human at work. I'm your producer and editor, Brie Bartos, and speaking of being human, we forgot to record an intro for today's episode and jumped immediately into the conversation. Joining us today, we have two very special guests. First, we have Chuck Gose, co-founder of ICology, co-host of Frequency, and someone who has been doing really important work for the internal comms community, as well as Kristin Hancock, also co-founder of ICology, someone who's played a huge role in building this community from the ground up, and also executive director for Friends of Indie Animals. Today's conversation will be celebrating Chuck and Kristin and their 5 years of ICology, celebrating everything that the two of them have built together, as well as the brand new X Factor Summit coming to the Transform 2026 conference in Vegas this month. Like I said, we started recording today and we just started talking and completely forgot about an intro. So let's go ahead and jump into today's conversation.
Just kind of, tossed a wrinkle in everybody's plans and stuff like that. I think we started off thinking about we're going to talk about the X Factor and Transform. But I thought just before that, I just wanted to appreciate Kristin and Chuck for what they've created with ICology in the last 5 years. Like I remember when Kristin, you just started it, and then y'all switched roles, and I figured wow, it must feel wild to have started this, and now you're kind of at the stage where we're talking about your own X Factor at Transform, and just the growth through that. So I just wanted to give y'all kudos for that, and at least and I think kind of what you're doing is all about community and unity, and I think that's something that is kind of like the X Factor. We're building that, and you guys are great at that. So I'd love for you to share any wisdom that you've had from what you've learned from building this community. And then, we could talk a little bit about what we're doing with this X Factor thing. And if we have time, we could do a Reddit story, because that'll be really fun.
Reddit's a wild, wild west of the internet.
It is.
Is it ever?
And
Yeah.
No holds barred.
I go on, I find a story. I don't tell anything about it to Pinocchio or Chris or our guests, and they hear it for the first time right here, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I know. The origin story of ICology goes back much farther, as many people know, than just the community of ICology being launched. So I can take the credit for building ICology as many people know it now as a community, but the deeper origins of ICology are what you're doing right now as the podcast, which Chuck started. I mean, gosh, what was that?
2015.
I don't even know what year that was.
2015.
15? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the community itself, I mean, I think what's unique about it is maybe, I don't know, life imitates art, art imitates life, chicken, egg, etc. Anyone who knows Chuck and I personally knows that we bring very unique personality traits to the table. We talk about this mysterious table in the world of internal communications, and that table mimics the table in our kitchen as well sometimes, and we bring those unique personality traits to that table as well. And we have unique personalities, and those personalities are reflected in ICology as well. So I don't think it comes as a surprise that we brought those unique skill sets to the community. And what I was able to craft when launching ICology and building it from the beginning is unique. And then what Chuck has been able to elevate it with his skill set is unique as well. And we need both of those things in a community. And that's what's been cool to see in our role flip and handing it off. And I don't know, I've loved in the same way. What's been really funny is in the same way that I would sometimes get frustrated when he wasn't able to participate as much because he was doing his full-time corporate job. When I'd be like, did you see this in ICology today? And he's like, no, I couldn't. I was on calls all day. I was working. And I'm like, that sucks that you had to work when I was doing this fun thing in ICology. And now it's the reverse, where he's like, did you see this thing in ICology today? And I'm like, no, I had to work all day. And so it's, now I have this like unique perspective of what it was like for him and vice versa. So.
And it's cool because it's like kind of like you're bouncing back and forth and still, because it feels like you're still part of the community, Kristin. I don't, and so even if you're not there, your presence, it feels like it's there. But yeah, like Chuck, like what about for you? Like how did you feel from like the transition? Because you're like Kristin said, from 2015 the podcast to now what it is, like what, how do you feeling about that journey? And like congrats.
Well, in many ways, it's still fulfilling the same mission that it was back in 2015, which was then finding new voices in internal communications, because I was even then growing a bit tired of just hearing the same voices over and over and over and over again. Getting those voices together, which is now very much what ICology is doing, just more in a structured format, not always centered around me, which I think is also makes ICology unique in this kind of world of communities. It's not centered on a person. It's actually centered on the community. It is peer driven. It is what the community wants to be delivered on. Like it is very much about people driving the content driving the people. It's not, I'm going to step in and teach everybody how to do something. That's not what ICology is about. It's very much about what the members want drives what happens in the community.
And I could like ask y'all questions like all day long. Like what are the things, and I'll let Chris ask the next one, but like what are the things that I wonder, like throughout all of these years, what are your kind of like biggest like aha moments with regards to building community and community building? Like what have you seen like works, or even what doesn't work? What mistakes would you avoid that you've done in the past?
This is, it's harder than it looks, I think, is one of my takeaways, is that, and I'll clarify that. In many ways, managing a community like ICology, an industry community, or even maybe I assume an industry association, mirrors what internal communicators are doing on an intranet or any sort of community at work. And it is so individual in terms of reaching out to people. I know people, Panaki, you were at like the very first Camp ICology that we hosted. We wanted to have, I don't remember if the goal was, 30, 40, 50, whatever it was, 40 or 50 people, however many people we wanted to have. There were 12 people there because 2 weeks before the event, there was no one signed up. And it was like, I remember Chuck and I sitting on our back deck in our backyard. I was in tears because I'm like, it was like no one was coming to my birthday party. Like no one was signed up. And we were advertising it. We were promoting it. It was the very first event. It's still a very unique event. People weren't getting it. It wasn't a traditional corporate conference. I mean, Chuck's doing Flyover Festival now. It's still not. That's the whole point of ICology, is it's not your typical events. It's not your typical community. And it was really hard to get that across. And so I don't think I underestimated how challenging it was going to be to get that across to people, and how much individual one-on-one literal phone calls it was going to be to people to call and say, I'm sure, Panaki, you remember that, like the text messages and the phone calls to say, can you please come to this event? Let me tell you, can you come to this member meeting? Can you come to this Zoom call? Hey, we're trying something new and I'm looking for people who are willing to show up and try something new with us, participate in this call. Hey, we're looking for communicators in healthcare. We're looking for communicators in manufacturing. Are you willing to try something new? I very much underestimated how much individual reach out was going to be involved in building and maintaining a community. That's one of the things I remember most. I don't know if Chuck, if you still find that, but.
Well, I can't remember. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Of course.
Ooh.
Okay, sweet.
Do you remember I bleep?
Bruce,
I'll bleep it.
Sure, perfect.
Yeah, Bruce says
so
yes.
Bleep this. Kristin's point is accurate. It is really hard to build community. Also, we are really fucking good at it too. In every part of our life, that is very much what we do, is we bring communities together. And it's one of those situations where I've found that people almost expect someone else to do it They expect someone else to be the one to bring people together. We are those people they expect. And so I'm honored that people look to us as a way to help bring various communities together inside of the world of internal comms and outside of the world of internal comms. This is what we do. This is our natural operating state, is to find ways to connect and bring people together. And in the world of internal comms, that's the purpose ICology is serving now.
And you guys are so, so good at it too. Like, I mean, you guys, every event that I've ever been to, you guys are like spectacular, different, memorable. There's a story every time. So like Kristen, thinking
And
back now, like what you said, like the slog of it, like, and people are going through it. Like, what would any advice to them of getting through that, like first going from like zero to first gear is rough. And like looking back at it, any
Mhm.
advice for them?
um, I think that first Camp ICology was and still is a very
Traumatic.
yeah, leading up to it, very traumatic. A very traumatic professional experience of like it tr- I will admit it felt like failure the entire time because even then I'll have to go back and look at the exact numbers, but it was something like we had 14 or 15 people like leading up to it. I think we wanted like, let's say 30 and we had like 15 people. And I was like, okay, whatever. We've got 15 people. It's fine. We're going to lose money on this. That's fine. I've accepted that. We've got 15 people coming. It's going to be a great experience for them. And then literally the 2 days before the event, we had people dropping out. So we ended up that I remember the night before sitting in the hotel room in Chicago thinking like, this is a failure. This is an absolute failure of an event because how are we judged on success in the workplace? It's metrics, it's numbers, it's dollars, right? It's signups, it's click throughs, it's likes, it's shares, it's all of those number metrics. And I get that. Those are important. And certainly in the business world, those are important numbers, especially when you're running a business. And so it felt like failure up until the very moment that that event started. And as soon as that event started, and the 12 of us, 12 people, the three of whom are on this call right now, until it got started. And then I was like, oh shit, this day is going to be magic. And it was.
Mm.
It
Mhm.
was. That day still I apologies to everyone who has attended an ICology event after that. That Camp ICology might still be one of the best ones that we ever did or will do because it was the first and because those 12 people in that room put their hands up literally and figuratively and said, "You know what? We believe in you. And we're going to show up and we are going to be there all day and we are going to and it was this group of people who were dedicated to being in the room and fully participating and turning their laptops off and turning their phones off and they were in it and connecting and participating like it was magic. We had a tour of the Art Institute of Chicago, a private tour on a day they were closed. Like that's never going to happen again.
Mhm.
So it I remind myself of that every single time that something feels like failure of being in the moment and paying attention to each individual person who is experiencing that moment and just being present for yourself and being present for them that for those people for those 12 people myself included that moment of seemingly failure was everything but.
I want to add another element to this too, which now you talk about going through that slog, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but take it personal. It's not personal. When people don't engage or don't join or whatever, it's going to feel like a personal attack. My recommendation is take it personally because it takes that individual to bring the community together. It takes someone being at that center. When ICology first started, that was Kristin. She was at that center. She was fighting for those people to come to Camp ICology, to come to virtual events. I am now in that role, pulling people in. It takes that person. So take it personally. It is your personal drive to bring those people together. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last year is you're not going to convince people. They're either going to want to be there or not be there. And early on, I was trying to convince people to be there. And that's the wrong way to go. You really need to just create the opportunity, and the people that want to be there will come in. The people that don't won't. And it's going to feel personal. So take it that way. Take it, figure out how you can improve, and keep that drive going to find ways to bring the community together.
That's awesome. It is hard. I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say, first off, Kristin and Chuck, just huge congratulations. I think what you said at the beginning about how difficult it is to build a community, and just the hustle that you have to, and just the grit, the resilience, trying to figure out, how do I do this in terms of making phone calls, in terms of just that anxiety of, is anyone going to come to this first event? It's very difficult. And for a lot of people, I think for 95% of people, that's it. It's a failure, and we're not going to move. We're not going to be able to move forward from this. But I did have a question, because I think you've built an incredible community with ICology. Why do we feel like it's so hard to build community? Is it the nature of the profession? Is it the nature of the people in the profession? Is it just the nature of building community in general? What can you share in terms of insights about what is it specifically when you're birthing a community that's so difficult?
Well, one, people are fickle.
That's
People,
true.
they have to want to join. They have to want to be there. And people are often pulled in so many different directions in their lives: personal, work, home, social, whatever it is. There's all these things pulling people away from maybe what they want to do. And so what I say is fickle is a sort of a negative way to view it, but they have different motivations that are out there. So it's more important to find the people that are motivated, that want to get something out of a community. I know there are times where I get frustrated, and there was just a LinkedIn post this week where someone was like, "Hey, it would be great. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way to pull together, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 internal communicators on a monthly basis, and we could just all tell stories and learn from each other?"
What a great idea.
I
What
saw
a
your
great
comment.
idea. And I'm
Who'd
like,
have thought of that?
and I comment not in a sarcastic way, which is what I wanted to do, but in a very hopefully helpful way of saying, this is what we do all the time inside ICology. Please join us. What was cool then was to see community members go and react to my comment. They then saw that this is there, but that person still wants to go build their own thing. And I think that's been the challenge of building a community, is when you then see people who want to build their own that looks just like yours. And you're like, why are you doing that? And it's easy to get distracted by the people that are doing that. So my advice is, when you're building this from the start, it is really challenging. It is really hard. One of the cooler wins we saw early on, one of our concerns when we started ICology was like, oh, is this just going to be our group of friends? Is this just going to be the people that we already know? And the beautiful part about it is it wasn't. Yes, there were people that we knew that joined right away because they trusted us and they wanted to support us. But the cool part was when people were joining that we didn't know who these people were. We didn't know where they came from, how they found us. And now some of those are our strongest voices in the community. And more than that, they are now friends of ours because of their commitment to ICology.
And I guess, sorry, go ahead, Kristin.
I was just going to add, I think we also live existentially in a very individualistic society, right? We're led to believe that we need personal individual success, and should, individual trophies, and we have to do it alone. And, I think that's part of it, is that we're kind of led to believe that we need to do things on our own all the time. I'm guilty of that myself. And so I think that kind of leads to a challenge of building community sometimes too.
I'll double down on that. There's a very what is it called, a intrinsic society here, where it's all
Yeah.
about like me and my success,
Yep.
versus an extrinsic society where it's about the village and my
Yep.
society around me, which is a shift. And I think kind of the hard part is like what Chuck said, we have to kind of like fight the friction. What it is there's so much friction that stops us from like getting out to join the community, because you have to be a little vulnerable, etc., and stuff like that.
Chris, one of the unique things I think when you talked about is that the type of people that join. This is what I found the difference between different professional communities. There's a B2B marketing community that I'm a part of, and they have a strict policy in there of no self-promotion inside the community. Inside ICology, I have the opposite policy. I want all of the self-promotion. I want communicators in there celebrating their
Love that.
successes, because the very nature of internal comms is almost like we can't share these great
Yeah.
things we're doing. Everything's internal, it's private. It's whereas marketers, you probably have to be a little careful
Yeah, really good.
with what they're talking about. Whereas internal comms, I want there to be a platform where they can come in and say, wow, look at this great thing that I built, so that then the community, one, can learn from it, but also celebrate with them. So I do think there's sometimes some unique professional elements based on who goes into certain roles that the community can help them then grow into new areas.
I love that, Chuck. And I think one of the reason why I was asking about why it was so hard to build the community is, when you think about internal communications, it's one of these roles that can feel impossibly lonely for a lot of folks in the profession, because you hear a lot, way more often than not, organizations where your internal comms teams describes themselves as small but mighty. And I remember at Transform last year, I asked Jenny Field and Advita Patel when they were speaking, just a question about why is it so hard for internal communicators to internally communicate their value to their respective organizations? And that's why I think communities like ICology are so important, because, more so than the knowledge sharing, more so than feeling proud of the work that you do, I think it's a really important place to build fellowship. I think it's a shared experience that we all have. And I think with just the continuing emergence of ever evolving technology that poses a threat to the perceived value of internal comms at leadership levels, I think communities exactly like ICology are more important than ever before, where I think this community and this profession has to do a better job of being better at beating our own drums and articulating our value, which goes beyond what I think too many leaders think about internal comms as being much more tactical focus. And that's the first thing that I think is going to get replaced over time in terms of the work that we do. And it's really only one piece of what we do in internal comms.
Well, it's funny. I was just at an event this week,
community.
and I was at an event this week, and there's this awkward transition where somebody else was coming up on stage, and then someone else knew was coming up on stage, and I just started clapping for the guy. I just wanted him to feel appreciated. And he's like, oh, I think Chuck's clapping for himself. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe people should clap for themselves more often. Maybe we should celebrate the work we're doing.
Absolutely. Let's switch to this transform. Like Chris brought that up about last year and stuff like that. And now you're like kind of even augmenting the community even more. We're bringing like internal communicators together with HR. And thank you both for introducing me to Transform. Like I've always seen that conference in the past, and it was on the fringes of my mind. And then you guys were like, yo, you got to go. And then I went. I was really happy that I went. But now you took it a whole nother level, like with the X Factor. I'm excited for that. But like, I guess, how did that come about for you, Chuck? Like to say that this is what we need to do?
I think it's twofold. I think one, so 2 years ago we attended mostly to see what's happening in other conversations around employee experience that's outside of just the normal day-to-day comms role. What are these bigger events talking about around employee experience? Then last year, so that got to know the team and the people, that grew to a partnership with ICology last year. So then I had a little more skin in the game, so to speak, and started to more evaluate this, because I've been growing a bit, or I'm not very enamored with the current comms conference culture. I don't like a lot of the events that are out there. I think that's why a lot of vendors you see now doing their own events, because they're just not seeing the investment made in other experiences for people. So as that grew, I saw, okay, if ICology is going to grow, what is an environment that we can then grow as a part of? What's something that we can latch onto to bring the comms element too. And Transform became that natural spot to do that. There's a lot of HR leaders there. In fact, it used to be called Transform HR. So they dropped that. So there's a legacy in HR all around employee experience, but the comms audience is missing from that conversation. And so I want ICology to be that conduit that brings the communicator into that conversation. I want the comms people there to raise their hand to ask about the comms activities that are part of employee experience, not just all the sessions talked around communications because they didn't have the detail. So I wanted to be the conduit to bring the communicator to Transform as that next experience, whether it's, the world conferences, that connects, all these things over the years that have been a great way to bring these audiences together. Transform is an amplification of that audience. And so part of that is the X Factor, which is our little mini summit, our pre-conference to bring the comms community together all around, I don't want to say just solving problems, but what's something in your organization that is bugging you? What's something you want to fix in your company? You're going to do that. We're going to help you build a plan to do that. So you leave with something to go and execute back at your company. And then you get to be a part of the full event the next day and a half, and then celebrate with us at Busta Rhymes, the after party at the end. That's been where I've seen my biggest driver for partnering with Transform is their investment in the attendee experience. People spend thousands of dollars to go to conferences. The last thing you want when you get there is like, here's your one drink ticket to go to the lobby bar to get your one drink, and then it's cash bar after. No, that's not what Transform is. It's an investment in the attendee experience. It is a fun time to be at Transform, and you get to be part of a broader community. So that's very much what X Factor is about. I'm excited about what we're building this year in 2026, and of having to stop myself from already thinking about what 2027 is going to look like, because we got to get the 2026 delivered first.
So Chuck, without giving away any spoilers, what can folks anticipate as part of the X Factor experience?
So one, broaden your community. Everybody that's in that room is going to be focused on improving the employee experience in a very tactical and strategic way. So one, that's going to be a micro community that gets built at Transform. But the exercise we're going to take people through is a true problem-solving exercise, looking at, here's my current situation, here's my future situation or ideal situation, and then going through the steps to get there. So I've enlisted the likes of Panaki here to join me on that, Jason Anthoin, Ann Mellinger, and Lindsay Turner, to help guide people through all these different levers they can pull to help improve that employee experience back at work. My goal, my hope is that this same audience that's there this year comes back next year because they're like, wow, I wanted to fix this thing. I was able to fix it. Now let's come back and let's go through that again. So yeah, I'm excited about what we're building there.
I'm also really excited. Like you said, Panaki will be there. I'll be there. But real quick, I wanted to touch on, Kristin, you mentioned the commonly asked question, how do I get a seat at the table? And one thing that I really like and respect about the X Factor Summit, Chuck, is that you didn't even bother to ask how to get a seat. You just decided to build another table for internal comms. And
Bree,
I
my name's
applaud you
Chuck.
for that.
Nice to meet you.
I also would like to point out and give kudos to Chuck, because he has been wanting an IC event in Vegas for years. Okay. And has said now for like 2 years, I've been hearing, he's like, it's going to happen. I'm making it happen. It's going to happen. I am getting this event. It's happening at Transform. It's happening. I have been listening and overhearing these calls that he has been having for maybe years, months for sure. So when something is happening, it's happening. I ended up I met Chuck at a conference, and I'm now immigrated and married to him. So this is now I'm here. This is
happening.
When the man wants something, it's just going to happen.
If he has an idea, he's chasing after it.
Right. So here we are.
That's what it takes to build a community.
Some people have goals. Some people just set out to get things done. And so I set out to get things done.
Get it done, yo. I'm super excited for it. I think kind of like, I think we're going to help people uncover and solve those things that have been like a thorn in their side for a while, or at least that's what I hope people choose to uncover while they're with us in Transform. So, uh, you know what I was thinking, Chris? Why don't we roll this one out?
Let's do it.
Yeah, if
Well,
we just
can I comment back to something, Bree, that you talked about with
oh,
a seat
sure.
at the table?
Yes.
One, don't ask for one. First off, just grab your own chair and pull it up. That's basically what we're doing with Transform. Yes, I had to get permission, and I can't just do a rogue event as part of someone else's event. But part of it was this is what's missing. Let me bring this in for you. And it's been really cool how receptive they have been to having communicators there. They want to grow this event. They see communicators as an untapped audience for their overall employee experience conversation. So if Transform is the table that we're talking about, absolutely communicators have a seat at it.
I love that, Chuck. And I think it's so important for internal comms teams to be intentional about just setting up regular meetings with different pockets of leadership to understand what's happening in the organization, talk more at strategic levels instead of being reactive and then just trying to turn around on a deadline and trying to make sure the communications get out. Getting a seat at the table means getting there earlier and understanding what's really going on so that you have a chance to really shape what the experience is going to look like, what's going to be the emotional impact for different pockets of employees. And I think just going back to the small but mighty, under-resourced teams, a lot of times, and I think Advita said it really great last year, is because resourcing is scarce for internal comms. It's hard not to be reactive and be more proactive about creating those relationships with leaders. And I love what you're saying, Chuck. Just pull up a seat, just set up a meeting with leaders, make sure you're having those conversations and just be intentional about it.
Well, I think the proactivity is key, that if you, and this is what we want to do at X Factor, is there's something that's not working at your organization, go fix it. I saw something that was missing in our profession. I'm building it. I made that commitment to myself that this is what I'm going to do. I want to see communicators take that same commitment. Something's not working well, go fix it. You can keep complaining about it, but complaining about it isn't going to make it any better. Go fix it. That's what we're going to do at X Factor.
That goes right back to what you said about community before. People are just expecting someone else to do it. Instead, do it.
Well, before we wrap up here today, you guys definitely sold me on joining ICology. So how would I go about signing up, and anyone else who's listening that's interested?
Very easy to do. Just go to joinicology.com. You can read all about the community. You can see testimonials. You can see tools we developed. You can see all the great benefits that you get out of it. But ultimately, it's joining. So from there, you can click a link, go join ICology. You can use the code ICLOVE, ICLOVE, save $50 off your first year of ICology. That's the other thing I want to point out to people around it is, yes, there is a financial commitment. ICology is not a free community, because what we found is that when things are free, people haven't invested themselves in it. And so invest in yourself. It is very affordable to the point where we've made it that way so that people do not rely on their employer to expense it. $20 a month, $200 a year, save $50 off using the code ICLOVE. Join us, invest in yourself, and be a part of a great community of communicators.
We'll see you there. Awesome. Thank you for joining. I think like what I hear right now is basically like, building community is hard, and actually kind of going about work life is hard. And it kind of almost feels like you're failing all the time, but it's just, that's what it takes to get to success. I guess every step that you take before you get to success is in fact a failure, I suppose, if you look at it that way. But you just keep moving, bring your own seat at the table, and keep listening to Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work,
And add the Frequency podcast to your weekly listens.
Exactly.
Thank you again to Chuck and Kristin for joining us for this week's episode. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you're attending Transform 2026 in Vegas this month, be sure to check out the X Factor Summit and sign up. We'll have links and more information in the show notes. Of course, if you haven't already, check out Chuck's podcast that he co-hosts with Jenny Field, the Frequency Podcast. New episodes every week. On behalf of Kristin and Bruce here, I just want to give a big shout out to Friends of Indie Animals and encourage everyone to adopt, don't shop. If you're in the Indianapolis area, definitely check out Friends of Indie Animals if you are looking for your next furry friend, or if you want to get involved in helping animals in need. If you're not in the Indianapolis area, check out your local shelter. Shelters always need fosters, donations, and volunteers. Thank you again for joining us this week. We'll be back next week with another short, honest conversation about the human side of work. See you next time.